In studio for a little bit is Caddo Commissioner Steven Jackson. Welcome back. Haven't seen you in a while.
Good morning. Glad
Aaron
to be
pointed out
here.
how
Thank
dapper you look today.
Thank you. Thank you.
What did I tell you coming in?
Yeah, she was gonna be very. Oh, you look so nice.
I told you. I said to Stephen and I said, Aaron will compliment you on today's wardrobe.
I've been in shirt and tie before when I've come in. It's been a while though.
Yeah, she was too shy back then.
You've had your band stuff on before,
Yeah,
and you know,
I've
casual
had
stuff.
Grambling stuff on.
I'll give you $300 for that Grambling jacket right now. I think we're about the same size if I had muscles.
I don't know. There's a lot of sweat that was earned that one.
There's some DNA in that jacket.
Yeah.
Stephen,
Let's move on.
Stephen, you and I got into a text tiff, if we will, the other day because I worded something. It turns out I was wrong, and you were right. And because we were talking about the Caddo Long Range Planning Committee, had voted to spend $500,000 to move the monument, and you said that's not what they did, Aaron. They voted to allocate $500,000.
So pardon me, is not the commission; it's a committee
of the
commission, and B, explain the difference between allocate and spend.
Well, one, let me say thank you, Aaron, for acknowledging that. Most journalists
never done it for me.
Most journalists just stick to their guns, but I appreciate that. But what happened was the Long Range Planning Committee met, and our goal and our charge is to plan for long term, as the name of the committee says, is to plan long range. And so our position was, regardless of what outcome is to come, we're trying to basically plan for what the future may be with regard to the Confederate Monument. So we authorized the parish administrator to set aside up to, and that's important to know, up to $500,000, not spend anything, but simply just set it to the side.
In case
that they don't move it, they may move it. The UDC may decide to move it. They may find a private funder who's willing to move it.
Has
the Supreme Court may
hear it at any point, and I know the answer to this, has the UDC, United Daughters of the Confederacy, at any point given you any inclination that they're going to put up? I mean, this to them is their. This is the hill to die on. They have made, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, that they have made no overture of compromise, that they have said, we're going to put up some money to move it.
I think our parish attorney would, hair would fall out of her head if I answered that question without saying that, I'm going to defer to her. I think legally they have had some conversation between their representatives, attorney to attorney.
So you will give me that there are some behind-the-scenes conversations or lawyer-to-lawyer conversations.
Lawyer-to-lawyer conversations. Okay. But to go into the details of that right now would I wouldn't jeopardize the case.
Some of the letters they've sent, we've posted. You can get it on the Keel app that they've sent to Donna Frazier, the Caddo Parish Attorney. Let me ask you this: would there be anything to stop the UDC at this point from saying, We own it. We are going to get a private entity to fund moving it, somebody that may want it at their location, and they could fund it and fund the move of it, and then no public money would be spent.
Right. That's a option at this point. And so and you have to remember that we don't vote on our budget until December, so we still have a full month and a half before we even adopt our budget. It still has to go out to RFP. Contract still has to be awarded. So there's still a process that has to go forward in the event that they don't move it. So they could come in and say, hey, we got it. We're going to move it.
Well, one question for you, Stephen.
That would be our preference.
If the parish decides to move it and you use public dollars to do that, what if you damage it? What if you harm it?
Well, I think we're going to do our best effort to move it with care, as we have indicated throughout this process. This is not to destroy. This is not to demean any part of history. We're just saying that it doesn't belong in front of the courthouse.
To those who disagree with that, to those, you're talking to a lot of folks listening to you who think that it should not be moved. What do you say to them today?
I would say that their issue is not with the Caddo Parish Commission. Their issue is probably with the Fifth Circuit, who upheld, I believe, Fifth or Ninth Circuit. I always get my circuits messed up, but they should look at the legal standing that we have. It's unfortunate that we have to have had this conversation for 2 years, but I'm grateful for it because it has provided a lot of clarity.
Let me try this. Have you heard from anybody, and I'm being kind of serious here, have you heard from anybody who says, I don't like that monument there. I think that ought to be moved, but I don't want to spend $500,000 of my tax money to do it. Isn't there have you heard from anybody who has had that position?
No, I have not. Most of the people, and again, I represent different districts. Most of the people that I've talked to, they don't want it there, and they really don't care.
And are willing to spend up to $500,000 to move it.
Right, they're fine with moving it, and it's their taxpayer monies as well. And so, I think we have to just be sensitive to the fact. As I told my colleagues on Monday, I don't like to spend taxpayer money housing individuals at CCC, paying for the dental. But that's the charge that we have, and the Caddo Parish Commission is charged with the responsibility of maintaining the courthouse.
Can you stick around one more segment a little bit?
Aaron, we're going to talk more about something else other than the monument.
Yeah, I got one more monument question.
Okay,
and then
sure.
We'll,
sure.
We'll do it. Can we do that right now?
Absolutely.
You're voting today on that long range planning committee's recommendation.
No. That's an action that we did, and so now it's in the administrator's hands. So the administrator will budget, and so we'll see come December how that process turns out.
What if in the 90 days the UDC does nothing? At that point, that's when you guys have to make a decision. It becomes
a legal process at that point,
Okay.
where we would either acquire ownership, take an action to acquire ownership, but we're going to defer to our legal department about which process we go. But there's still state law that we have to follow before we dispose of private property.
We're going to tie you